Welcome to episode 50. 50. We finally get into the big leagues, big boys, you know what I mean? So, first of all, I want to start by saying thank you to everybody who
Yes.
has been, paying attention to this conversation, following us, you know what I mean? We appreciate you very much. To everybody has participated in the conversations. My wife, again, joining us for this conversation. I'm happy to
Favorite
have
when
you
she's here.
here with us.
Yeah.
And thank you, Lorena. Alexi Smith, that has always been also part of the conversation. My daughter, Brianna, Malia, also that has been part of the conversation. So I just wanted to highlight everybody. And of course, this wouldn't be possible without the organizational skills and the camera skills of Nori Bujosa. Thank
Bow,
you,
bow,
thank
bow,
you, thank you.
bow.
Without being said, guys, we're going to the end of the year. So what we want to do is we want to highlight a couple of big events that took place for 2023. I know you have a couple of things that you want to bring to the table. I want to, in general, mention a few things that had an impact on
Yeah.
most people. Whether we like it or not. Obviously, first of all, we have an election that hasn't even really started, but we're going into primaries for the Republicans. What the general election will potentially look like based on what's going on right now, just based on this even primary, I think that everybody's got to be ready for a complicated 2024.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that, seeing the removal of President Trump from the ballot from the state of Colorado,
Yeah.
also a scary thing to witness. Today it was actually, as a matter of fact, as we're doing this, it was actually announced that the Secretary of State of Colorado will include former President Trump in the ballot, which I think it just brings a lot of tranquility to a lot of people. Maybe the people that are truly opposing Donald Trump don't realize how scary for our process of elections and democracy this really was, and a greater negative impact to our election process than anything that he was being accused out of January 6th. You know what I mean? So
I mean, it's Venezuela style stuff. This is happening in my
Correct.
country, where they've been stealing elections
Yeah.
for 20 years. And then Trump being indicted not once, not twice, but 3 times.
correct. Anything specifically that comes to mind for you before we dive into?
The Trump thing also, I'm very curious to see, and I know that Colorado says, they will allow him to be on the ballot. Well, I don't think it's too much of a choice,
Yeah.
and also setting the tone. So I'm happy about that side of it because, I think you stopping people to vote tells a lot about where the country will be going if that took that direction. And
It also
everything
talks
else.
about how much you fear the process and not allowing the electoral process, or just a normal, hopefully people
To make the
to
choice
make
of
their
who
choices
they
opposed to
have,
it,
and
right.
it's almost like government is being put there just because it's supposed to be that. And
Right.
I think it's no tolerance, even from people who are very liberal. I think they're taking a stand on that.
What is it? They preach tolerance, but don't do
Correct.
anything.
When will you say you actually started to really pay attention to at a deeper level when it comes to this election process? Because we have that conversation with Lorena, with Alexis, to say, because at some point, like all of us, as you going through the process of life, getting older, there is that one election that just drives you in, and it forces you to say, okay, what are the platforms? Like, what exactly is it that I should be paying attention to? Do you remember which election
I
in particular?
think it was Obama when Obama ran. I think it was a defining fact of the kind of president he was going to be, the first African American president. And some Clinton days, I paid attention to it, but I wasn't invested in it. I feel invested from the Obama time.
I have a
Obama-
follow-up question, though.
Okay.
Were you
Yes.
ever a Democrat?
No.
Class of Democrat.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But let's go through this process. I mean, listen. First of all, I personally am extremely grateful that the Secretary of State of Colorado is saying, listen, there's a process of appeal. We're going to include him on the ballot because here's what's absolutely coming out of this whole situation right now, and I challenge everybody. Right? Why don't you take the time to look at the platforms from both political parties? We only have two. This is not. It's not like, oh, I got to go through 12 of them and say no. We only have two. You can literally go to the website of every the Democrats have a national platform that is clearly presented through their statement of essentially describing to everybody this is what we believe, this is what we support. Republicans will do the same, and that covers everything: social issues, economy, anything that will be of significance or important to you. Because when I hear people saying, well, it's that these guys are nicer than the other person, then you either voting for the right reasons or you're misguided or you're naive about the process. It's like listening to Barbara Streisand saying that she'll leave the country because
Everybody been saying that from
because
both
Trump
sides.
Trump
It's
is like,
the
by the way,
cutest thing to
just
say.
to remind her, there's a lot of people trying to cross the border into the
Into
country
the
and not out
country,
of. That
yeah.
should tell you something, Miss dear Barbara Streisand. But what I'm saying is, what her argument is that President Biden is just a nice person. He's nice, and if we literally look into his whole political career, if you look into some of the personal behaviors, there's nothing nice about this man. This man is a professional politician. I respect the office of the presidency. Therefore, I'm extending him an additional level of respect. Like that's a line that I will never cross. You know, for me, the president of the country is the president of the
Right.
country. I don't care who it is, should be respected as
Right.
such, right? And so that much I'm willing to say for any president, Democrat or Republican. But to say that I'm going to choose somebody because the person is nice or I'm going to like it, we go into the territory of people are going to support whoever they are going to support no matter what. And what that means is that there is a group of people where you cannot have a real normal conversation about the issues because they're just going to stand their ground on their position and they're not willing to be honest about accepting, you know what, yeah, you're right, this is not the best thing or this is wrong, or do they truly believe that some of the things that they're supporting right now is a good idea?
What percentage will you say? Because I see out there, people will vote for the famous or the most popular cause and, to stand behind it. What percentage of people voting do you really think do the homework, understanding what they're voting for and what the person who's running, whether it's a president or a governor or at any stage of you having that voting right, what's the percentage you think of people that really do the research and understand what they're voting for?
Less than 10%.
Yeah, I would say that it has evolved to a more intentional, conscious participation just because the access to information is greater than it ever was. So we were talking about, I mean, just in our last conversation, we were talking about the fact that the information that you were getting from media outlets that had already decided who was the nice person and who was the bad person and was selling you the narrative about the things that you needed to believe because that was the right thing to support. And so you have a lot of people who actually believe they were supporting the right person based on the information they got. But today there is no hiding place. You know, today it's only the person that chooses, I don't even want to know. Now, it's a big percentage of people that go through the motions. You know what I mean? It's like, listen, I'm going to vote. I don't think it makes anything, but I'm still going to go do it as a civic duty.
To get the thing that says the
Vote.
sticker.
Yeah, I mean, and
voted,
there's a social media activity today. Just about everything is a social media activity today.
But what percentage do you think?
Or the people that are intentionally, I think it's a little higher, to be
Yeah,
quite honest with you.
I would say.
I think is you had people that are intentionally today searching for information, and it's also defined by age groups, right? So I would put it probably closer to between a 15 to 20%, to be quite honest with you.
Okay.
I think that there's, and just because the access
You're saying, by the way,
that we have to
intentionally looking
information,
at both sides and or not just
The-
being like, this is how we vote.
I would
this
say
is the way
that
to
at least there are more intentional looking into, if not both sides, into at least their side, right? Because before, you had a group of people that just didn't feel the need. Listen, I was born a Democrat. I'm staying a Democrat.
And so that's
I
why,
was
and
born
I'm glad that you brought that
yeah.
point because that's exactly where I said it's like I'll put it higher because I did spend a little bit of time researching.
Correct.
Just to, instead of asking, how do I know that I'm right? Just to be like, this is how I know I'm right. And that became a lot earlier than when I actually started paying attention to say, okay, so how do I know that I'm right? So for me, I agree with you with the 15 to 20%, but I think over more than half of that percentage are people just saying, I'm just gonna load up my stuff so when I'm sitting at the Thanksgiving table or the Christmas table, I can just argue for my guy, regardless of whatever is being said, because I'm not even gonna listen. So I think people open to having the conversation from both sides, and you can.
False mercy.
Less than
False
10.
mercy is what I, at some point, that's what I encounter within the Democrat. I will say that when I first came into that, listen, I'm not trying to sound like Julio Iglesias on purpose. You know what I mean? I came into this country, and you look at the caravans that are coming in right now. I came as an immigrant that ended up crossing the border when I was 18 years old.
There was no caravan.
There was no caravan in my case, and there was nobody waiting for me to tell me if I wanted to take a plane or if I wanted to take a bus, or if I wanted to.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and and I was not complaining to where is my plane when I arrived, right? It's the kind of crazy stuff that you're seeing today. But what I do want you to know that the moment that I came into the country and I was able to understand a little bit of what the communications were, it felt it felt like the Democrats were the nicest group of people. Like they were always somewhere for the little guy, and it sounded as if, and up until the point that you really come to the conclusion, this is false mercy. This is somebody who's saying, poor you, stay where you are, poor you. There is no hope for you to become anything different or
But
anything
it's more
other
of a
than.
control. Poor you. I'm gonna give you this. It's like it's a trade-off. I give you this, and then you will give me back your support, and that's where people go wrong. And I think for where you're going with that, it also has to do with how the media spins it. But now I see, that's why I asked the percentage. I see even the media who would all oppose to is now being more impartial to say, like, realistic. If Biden runs, no, Biden, like the people who would have been all on that is, so I think people are looking more into it. So I would say probably 35 to 40% of people are now researching what they are going to look at
But
because
to the
it's been,
extent of what she was saying about comparing the two platforms, though, I don't know that it's that high. I don't know that it's that high. I know that people now have more access to information to support
Their argument.
their argument. Like she's saying, I'm gonna load up on information so when I go to the dinner table, I know how to fight it out and how to argue with somebody. But to really take the time, the sad part about it is that that's how much of a lousy job. Whose responsibility is it? Well, assume that out of the three of us, one of us is gonna be more right than the other two, right? And by the way, that should be
Not at all.
never.
It's
Whose
deep.
responsibility?
It's always
Whose
deep.
responsibility is it, right? If we do a lousy job promoting the good ideas, if we do a lousy job promoting what truly is best for the country, what you're doing is you creating a vacuum where it's gonna be easily filled by crappy information, by emotions, by feelings, by things that don't really stuff that's not even helpful for the country. So if the Republicans don't do a better job saying, let's look at the financial issues, let's
But
look
you
at what's
nailed
taking
it.
place.
Right. So I think what I see, people who are usually on the other side of the coin, they're feeling the pinch. Because they're going to the supermarket, they understand it, they see what the jobs are like, they're understanding it. And their money is not all the promises of all the things, because the spin on, being the nice guy, like, hey, let everybody in, like these poor people are coming. People are now standing up who was on that side of the coin and said, no, wait a minute. I'm here. I am last. What about the people in this country? What about me? And I think it's the economy is playing a big role in how those decision is going to
So
also
you're saying
be
that
made.
more people are paying attention.
Absolutely, and they're forced to. Not that they're like looking at the TV and making Their pocketbook tells the story. Their children tell the story. All the things with the schools, the craziness that's happening. People are now taking a stand like, oh, it's no longer in somebody else's backyard, it's in my backyard. So let me pay attention. So I think people are going to be more diligent to not understand what's a Republican or what's a Democrat, what's right for our country, where is our country is at. I think it's going to be a big factor in this year's election. I think that would be pretty
I
big.
think that it was painful to see, especially when there were real scary moments about the economy. By the way, we're not out of it, as that's what we're gonna. But and for people not to make a connection between the style of one administration and the style of another administration, and what is the impact that it has, not only with the economy, but then forced to also look into some global events, right, that are taking
Yes.
place right now.
It's key.
The fact that right now our armed forces had been attacked 106, 107
7
times
times.
already, right? In areas where normally would have taken just one situation like that
For the
to like
reaction.
carpet bomb everybody
Everybody.
to say, don't you dare try something like this here. How many, do we really have to get to the point
Right.
we're going to have some people? But
Casualties,
people are
right.
still not making the connection though between how is it that one administration will have handled a situation like that next to the other administration. And again, that's the lack of, now that everybody's being forced, politicians, even from as Democrats, are literally saying, listen, this whole situation with immigration now is really out of hand.
Yep.
Considering the fact that what do we have officially counted, about 2.53 million people that are going to be going through the border. In what is it, the state of New York send a total of how many? What is it, 100,000 people, give or take?
Just-
We should send in
somewhere
multiple
around
states, or is it just the state of New York? And they're already saying we can't handle
Yeah.
this. This is doomsday. This is too much. But what do they want? Do they really want a solution? And everybody already said, oh my God, they started to complain. Not even because they want to highlight it as a problem. They want money. The mayor of Chicago already came out and said, we just need more money so that we can handle this whole thing.
Yeah, of course.
So they want to, again, continue to anything that's going to give them money to create another bureaucracy
Yep.
that is not going to solve the problem. And putting federal government now to just throw more money
Fund.
to, it's just a horrible thing. But what I'm asking everybody though, what I'm asking everybody right now, is just to hear, we're gonna go into one of the most consequential, and it sounds like everybody says that every time there is an election, but I truly believe that this is gonna be, it's almost a point of no return for the United States. We gotta be extremely careful what's gonna happen with the next election. Just go into both websites, download what is the position of one, download the position of the other one, and just start comparing notes. Okay, which one, and then at the end, it's not just a question of comparing notes. What do you support based on that position? What do you support based on so the same position, this guy is saying this about it, this guy is saying that about it. Where do I stand about that? And let it be you getting to the point, because for me, I will tell you, it was the conversation about corporations, right? I remember the first conversation that was vilifying corporation. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm working for one right now, and I'm getting paid. I'm not paying them; they're paying me, and I make more money than people that were even born in this country. But that's because I work longer hours, and I'm willing to do, and I'm willing to learn, and I move myself through the process of even understanding that business, that eventually I ended up owning the business. So if we're selling me to the idea that I need to be concerned about what minimum wage is, and I'm pursuing the American dream, once that came into my head, into my heart, and I'm looking into which path takes me to embracing an American dream, and I'm saying being concerned about what minimum wage is, it's not going to take me
Not the
anywhere.
path to the
It's
American-
irrelevant.
How do I become the business that creates jobs and creates wealth? I think is the route to go. And that starts my process, and then, there's a sequence of a million other things that I go through.
But can I challenge you there
Yeah.
for a minute? Because when I look at when you're asking people to look at the website, you have to also understand that the Republican Party does a very lousy job at marketing and language, because you're looking at something like what I said, backing abortion is not abortion. For the Democrat Party is called women's rights. And so, of course, people want to back. Who doesn't want to back women's rights? Right. You know, when you're talking about, it's not double mastectomies and, you know, puberty blocker for children. Let's allow that. It's called gender affirming care. So they use that language. And to be honest with you, this is precisely the reason why, even going into the website, and I was look, it's on the website. It's not even anybody's opinion. It's like, this is exactly what they say. Because when you even listen to the language or read the language that they're using, it's very misleading from what it actually says to what it actually does. I don't know if that makes any sense.
100%, and I mean it goes back to I agree with you 100% on this. The fact that they do a better job selling an idea. They use better language. They use the language that would be a lot more effective. It's a responsibility for some of the best communicators, you know, within
it wouldn't be called guns right.
Yeah,
It would be called like personal defense something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy. That I'm like,
100%. But better than that is, you know, I think that was absolutely taking place. For example, like our voices right now in general. You know, you're not expecting to hear somebody that sounds like me, that looks like you also, to be talking about
beautiful
what it means to be somebody that more than likely will be supporting a Republican platform. And I'm saying that as of this moment. I kind of want you to think that I'm also sold out to it. It was gradual to the point that the last president that I absolutely was like supporting, like really, man, I had an incredible level of respect for this man. That's what I said, that some of the biggest names die young, and they become almost idealized, you know what I mean? Just because they did something special, and then after the passing, that's the only thing that you remember. Well, Bill Clinton was that guy that was an incredible communicator. Right, and have the ability to connect with people. It's like, that's an incredible talent. You know what I mean? And again, the last time that our budget was balanced was done during his administration.
So you would say he was a good president?
I would say today, knowing what I know, and that I really I would say that he was an okay president.
So what happened, and this is
but I want to go back to, before you move to that, I want to go back to your saying, when you go on the website and how you read it, abortion is abortion. And
that's not the way it's being sold.
You know, for if you are a true believer, and you got to understand that aspect of it, I don't think how fancy the language is going to make a difference. Children being victimized at that level where they don't make the right decision about changing their gender and all of that, I think anyone in their right state of mind will not support that.
Yeah, but most people do not read the descriptions. People will read, well, of course I'm all for women's right, regardless of what that means. Of course I'm all for affirming care, right? Regardless of what that actually means. And so that's what I mean, that it's like, when you look at it, it's like, who wouldn't want to back women's right? And nobody's calling it abortion, because if it were called abortion, more people will be like, hey.
The problem is when you're confronting the people that are saying, let's talk about women's rights. And now you have, we just finished watching, what was the name of the movie? Lady
Ballers.
Ballers, right? Yeah. And that's a
shout out to the Daily Wire.
Yeah. I mean, that's a real slap in the face for women in general. You know what I mean? When you're talking about, okay, so how are we affirming women if in reality what you're doing is right now you are allowing biological males to take place into things that again was specifically created. So there was many reasons, you know what I mean, is fairness being one of them. Women's sports is that. It's essentially to create a safe environment, an environment that was supposed to be fair, and with the ability to compete based on the same structure, physical structure. And that was a matter of down to ability, right? Who was more capable to do certain things. No different than we do, what I mean, on male sports and stuff like that. But once you started to allow the whole situation, so that language have to be confronted, guys. However small our contribution here is, that's what we do. That's what a lot of the people. I think that what's important is whenever you get a chance is to force the conversation a little bit. I don't want to say to force the conversation. You have to just be willing to participate in that conversation. I can't even tell you how many
You have to be
times.
willing to have an opinion. I think too many people became yes people to, or go along with the most popular thing.
I just don't want to be aggravated. Like I hear so many people. I have so many good friends. They're very, very intelligent guys. You know what I mean? Very intelligent people that will literally go, listen, man. I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to be aggravated. And you have no idea how that is just as harmful as whatever negative idea is being moved around because nobody's willing to confront it, right? So, however simple it is, without taking it to the point of being disrespectful or extreme to somebody else, there's no greater case about how the country is divided and how language is being manipulated and how some people who have their own listen, the level of financial and agenda interest is so deeply rooted with some institutions and some people that this is not an easy conversation
No.
to just overlook because you're going you're not this has nothing to do with anything that would be good for the country. This is just limited to what would be good for you. And once the person gets to that point where they literally say, listen, man, I'm just looking after my own family. I couldn't care less about what happens. So that's
They're gonna.
at least
It's
honest.
gonna come back.
But that's
bite
the
you
end
in
of
the
it,
ass,
and it's
yeah.
gonna come back. And because once they done taking everything away from everybody else,
They'll come after you.
they're coming for you. With that being said, guys, I'm extremely happy that this happened. Let's see if the election develops the right way. Any closing messages, guys? Then so we can.
I mean, it is the end of the year, and I want to make sure that we keep it short. It is the end of the year. This is a time for you to look at the person that you want to become. And for many people, this becomes kind of like the reset button. Whatever happened in 2023, whether it was great, whether it was not so great, you have the opportunity to say, you know what, let me get the ball started. Let me go ahead and start on that new, and I hate it, right? New year, new me. I hope that it starts from now, that it's not just something that is going to hold and that it's just going to be a facade, but it's going to be something that will help you make some decisions that will make it the beginning of the greatest years of your life. So, and it all starts with you making a decision today.
For me, it's about retooling yourself. I think this is the time, for many, many reasons, it's necessary. Retool yourself. You talked about people and their finances, people with, but also your values with your family. I think these are the times that you really can center and go back and look back at what has happened, what you align with, what you support, what you don't support. And I think for families, these are great times. I love the holidays, not for the gifts. I'm not big on gifts, but I'm big on the reflection side. I think this is a good time to be able to do that. And I think for the podcast, you guys did an amazing job last year. There's a lot of messages. There's a lot of things that I listened to, and it's very in depth, and maybe a lot of people don't get it. But great job for Lorena, you and Alexi for
Appreciate
carrying your message and just being consistent with it. So
Thank you.
continue to support the channel. They're doing a great job.
More than anything else, I want you to find a way to be grateful. Right? I know a lot of people face a lot of challenges. 2023, don't carry that as a death sentence into 2024. Let's try to shake it off. Find a way to be grateful. Most of the things that happened did not happen to you. They happened for you. There's
Absolutely.
probably a reason for those things and or at least a lesson to learn. Thank you for watching. Pass it around. Like, subscribe, and
Let
let
us
us
know
know
what
what
you
you think about some
Yeah.
of your biggest events that you have going on for 2023. All right. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.